Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for watching. I am here with Lauren Wild, and your name, I'm sure, has been commented upon many times in your life, is apropos because you spend much of your time in the wild.
That's true.
Are you looking forward in the future having a TV show, Wild in the Wild? I want to produce that. Let's work together. Let's collaborate. You are a PhD student in the University of Alaska Fairbanks College of Fisheries and Ocean Sciences.
That is correct.
And it's not an interrogation, like, where were you? One of your fields of studies is one of the largest creatures on our planet, which are whales, which are amazingly beautiful creatures.
They are.
How did you get interested in studying these monsters of the deep?
Well, I was raised in Sitka here in Southeast Alaska. And so I was kind of surrounded by humpback whales my whole life growing up. They were out in the Sound foraging in the summertime. But I never really thought twice about them until I was a junior in college and I was studying abroad in Madagascar. And I had to do an independent study project. And through that independent study project, I kind of happened upon this humpback whale conservation program in Madagascar. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. You know, we have humpback whales in Sitka. That would be a fun project to work on and volunteer with while I'm in Madagascar. So I contacted a local whale biologist, Jan Straley in Sitka, who was friends with my mom, small town. And she kind of took me out on her boat and taught me kind of what she does. And I started volunteering with her doing humpback whale research. And I had a great time. She knew the people in Madagascar that run the cetacean conservation program. So she hooked me up with them. I volunteered. And then from there, I kind of was pretty hooked. It was kind of my life kind of took a new direction. I hadn't been expecting it. So I didn't have that love of whales my whole life where I knew I was going to study them, but that's kind of just how it happened.
Did you have to sort of reboot where you were going with school once you discovered this? Because it was unexpected. Like, I've been taking all these classes for this sort of thing,
right.
But now this is my passion. Oh my gosh, I have to take 100 more credits.
Yeah, I was an international and global studies major in college. I was going to school at Brandeis University in Massachusetts. That's where I did my undergrad. So I was in Boston, as far away from Sitka as I could get for college, and studying international relations. So then when I went abroad and I kind of got into that, and my senior year of college, I had finished most of my requirements for my major. So I took bio as a senior. Then I took a whale biology class. It definitely, I kind of adjusted things. And then I took some more classes when I moved back to Alaska a few years later, and I took some classes at UAF and Juneau just to kind of beef up my science background because I did not get a Bachelor of Science degree.
It might be interesting because one of the things that you work with, and specifically a project you're working on now, is working with resource developers, fishermen and things like that about their relationship with whales. So this international studies and politics probably comes in pretty handy for this work you're doing right now.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I feel really lucky because I work on a fisheries interaction with sperm whales. And so I get to work with industry, and I'm in a community that I grew up in. So I know the industry, I know the fishermen, and I get to kind of work with them to try to solve a problem or try to work on an issue that I think we can all collaborate on. And so that's really rewarding.
And I'm sure the topic is so sensitive for people on both sides. People who study the wildlife that live in the waters and people who rely on the waters to feed their family and to make money. How do you walk that line so finely, understanding both sides like you do?
It's very difficult. Like you said, you know, fishermen are relying on the water to feed their families. There's a lot of subsistence users in Southeast Alaska and coastal communities in Alaska in general. And then you're balancing, you know, a species that's recovering from commercial whaling. They're endangered. They're interacting with this gear. They're very good at interacting with this gear. They're very good at, so sperm whales, I guess the project I work on is the Southeast Alaska Sperm Whale Avoidance Project, which is called CSWAP. And it's a collaboration between scientists, fishermen, and managers, and we're all kind of working together on this project to better understand how sperm whales remove sablefish or black cod from commercial longline fishing gear. And so here in the Gulf of Alaska, these whales are plucking sablefish or black cod off of fishing gear as it's coming up to the surface, and the fish are dangling off of hooks. It's kind of like a sushi line for them, like a conveyor belt of sushi. And they're really good at it. Yeah, they're really good at it. And it causes economic costs to the fishermen, because those fish that they lose to the whales, then they have to go back out and take extra fishing trips to catch those fish. And we don't know really what impact it's having on the resource, on the fishing community. There's economic costs. There's risks of entanglement for whales. We haven't had any reports of whales being entangled in fishing gear, but it's definitely a possibility. And we want to balance that. So like you said, it's a fine line to walk.
Are they resistant to when you're trying to do some research, or are they like, yes, please, we want to solve this too. We don't want to hurt these creatures either.
Well, everybody's different. So we certainly have fishermen that are kind of resistant to it, and they're not patient with it. But I would say for the most part, my interactions with the fishing fleet have been really positive. And for the most part, when you're out on the water with fishermen, they let us use their fishing vessels as a platform for research while they're out fishing. And so you get to be out there kind of experiencing it with them. And they respect, and for the most part, it's a pretty cool thing. It's just unfortunate that it's kind of causing this economic hardship. And the fishermen would like those whales to just be naturally foraging around their boats and not taking their fish directly from their gear.
Maybe we could work to ways to communicate with whales. You could just talk to them like, hey guys, this isn't, go somewhere else. These whales are so amazing, and they're such an important part of human history. A big part of the economics of the 18th and the 19th centuries all went into these animals' fuel, food, resources. And as you said, they are recovering. Is it going along well? Are we getting the sperm whales back that we had 200 years ago?
Well, it depends who you ask. The short answer is we don't know. It's very difficult to study sperm whales. They spend most of their time underwater, and so they're hard to track and find. They live offshore, so it's expensive to charter research vessels, to do cruises, to do surveys. So it's a difficult species to really study. But so we don't really know what the numbers are, but we know that over 150,000 sperm whales were killed in the North Pacific during commercial whaling, just in a 20 or 30 years time span. So we know that they probably have a long way to go if we're going to get them to pre-whaling numbers. But it's so interesting about commercial whaling really fragmented and kind of changed the population structure of sperm whales. So we don't really know. Now we only see male sperm whales in the Gulf of Alaska. We're not sure. There've definitely been females around, but we don't really see any around fishing boats. So we don't really know what the structure of the population was so much before commercial whaling. So it's hard to say how we'll get back there. But we, they do seem to be doing pretty well. Their populations are doing well. And
does it make, when you think about that sort of stuff, and I know as a scientist, it's you're collecting data, you're reporting the data, you're making some findings, but do you as a human feel sad about that sort of stuff?
Sad about what exactly?
About the loss of potential for our planet for the whaling, post-whaling apocalyptic time. Do you feel sad for the whales?
Oh, well, I think the whales are doing pretty well. But I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that. I mostly focus on kind of learning as much as I can about what they're doing and how they're interacting with humans, with the ecosystem, and how, small changes in one part of the ecosystem can affect, have multiple effects down the line. So, I kind of focus my research on that.
One of the things lately, and I posted a story about it on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, sometimes you're called in as a whale expert, like for whale CSI, to find out what happened to this whale. and there was a recent beaching of a sperm whale in Alaska, and you and your team, you were part of a team that was called in to find out maybe what had happened with this whale. And one of the things that you mentioned was you're studying how whales interact with human society, and we read all too often about whales that are discovered with all sorts of plastic and stuff that they've eaten. But you recently were part of a team that found this whale, and you looked inside it. What did you find, Lauren?
Well, I was interested in looking in the stomach for a number of reasons. One is that I studied the diet of sperm whales.
Is it really gross before you go on? Like, is it really gross?
Yeah, this one wasn't as smelly and gross as some whales that I've been on. I've been on some humpbacks and a gray whale that were pretty far gone.
But this one.
This one was it wasn't as bad. It had definitely been dead for a few weeks at least, so it was smelly. But we had to get in there. Most of us that work in whale research and do necropsies were kind of like immune, I guess, to the smell. We notice it and then we just kind of keep going. But yeah, we opened the stomach and we found a lot of squid beaks, which was really interesting for me because, you know, we know sperm whales in this area take fish from commercial fishing gear, but this animal, of course, the longline season for fishing has just begun and there is not one in Lynn Canal. So this whale, you know, wouldn't have been eating fish from fishing gear in Lynn Canal where it was found, but there are squid in there, and so there were definitely a bunch of squid beaks in the stomach. And I was also interested because, you know, like you mentioned, a lot of stories these days you hear about whales washing up, especially sperm whales and other deep diving toothed whales that eat fish, like pilot whales and beaked whales, and they tend to have a lot of plastic in their stomachs. So I was curious what we would find in this whale, and we didn't find any plastic. We went through as much of the stomach as we could find, digging around in the abdominal cavity, and didn't seem to be any plastic in there.
That's interesting. Is it big enough that you can climb in, like you can walk in there like a closet?
Yeah, you can definitely get inside. Yep, it's messy.
Like, do you a headlamp on that you wipe off the stuff?
No,
like a flashlight? Like,
cut open the side, so we were kind of coming in from the side.
is there special gear, or is it just like hazmat gear that you wear for the necropsies?
That's a good question. Well, everybody kind of has a different approach. There's a guy that we work with who basically buys disposable rain gear, really cheap rain gear, and he duct tapes it on him so there's no kind of open seams for things to get in. And then at the end of the day, he just takes it all off and throws it away because the smell is pretty bad. Other folks try to clean theirs, wear more heavy duty rain gear, and they clean it pretty thoroughly. And the smell never totally goes away, so you kind of have to store it somewhere that, you know, it's like a special, we all have this like special necropsy closet or tote that has like stuff in it that's got kind of a weird smell. And then every time you are on a necropsy, you grab that stuff and go. So yeah, everybody's kind of, I wear one of those white, what are those little white suits that have a little hood and stuff. I forget, like those little Tyvek suits that folks wear when you're doing insulation and stuff. So I wore one of those. I borrowed one from my dad and wore one of those, and then put kind of throwaway rain gear over it because I did not want anything getting through.
No, I'm sure you've had your experience of integrity of suit violated. We'll be taking shower for days.
I got swiped on the cheek on this one with some goo. Somebody was like turning, and there I was, and yeah.
It's just being in the field. Just being in the field.
In the field.
So that's end of the semester. You're wrapping up your studies for this semester. Are you doing some field work this summer as well? Yeah.
So my PhD fieldwork is pretty much over. I'm hoping to finish this sometime later this year. But because I work with this collaborative group, CSWAP, we have a couple projects going on this summer. So I'll be doing a little bit of fieldwork and helping out with those projects and trying to collect more samples, learn more, kind of keep a long-term data set going of these animals.
I think one of the things I find so inspiring about your story is that you're born in Alaska. You're like, I want to get out of Alaska. Alaska has great stuff, but I want to see what the rest of the world is like. You go to Brandeis, you go to Africa, you go all over the world, and then you come back to Alaska because this is the place that you're studying. So I think it's just really inspiring to hear stories like that. Do you reflect on that yourself sometimes?
Yeah, I do. When I was growing up, the narrative was kind of like, if you're smart, if you're bright, if you're on the top of your class, you go out. Everybody encourages you to go explore the world, go to college, move out of Alaska, go see the world. But then you never get the message, then come back, bring what you've learned, what you've experienced in the world back to your community. And I think, I'm from a small coastal community, and I think that's really important in Alaska. Our culture is very tied to our community, our family. We're pretty interwoven, tight-knit communities, and everybody's connected all over the state, this kind of fabric of being Alaskan and relying on your resources and the land to provide our families with food and economic stability. And so I think it's an important message to give kids that, go out and explore the world and learn as much as you can, but then come back and bring what you know to your community and make a difference there and kind of make your community a better place.
Lauren, thank you so much for taking some time this morning. I really, really appreciate it. Keep up that great work. Whales are amazingly beautiful creatures, and I envy you the time that you get to spend thinking about them and working with them.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Bye, Lauren.
Bye.